Good morning. My name is Bob LaSalle. I'm the County Administrator for Pinellas County. On behalf of Bill Law, who'll talk to you in a minute, and Julie Jansen, we want to welcome you to this conversation and this exploration into the issue of jobs, workforce, economic development. This all started with a meeting that Stuart Rogel had and invited the county administrators from around the region to a presentation on the plan. And he tasked us with a challenge to go out and figure out a way to start making something happen with this plan and begin a conversation in our communities. And I took him seriously, came back, had a conversation with Bill and Julie that resulted in further discussion with Stuart, resulting in our effort this morning. We thank you for being here. We acknowledge the business folks who have turned out in support of this, folks from the university community as well who are here. They'll get introduced a little bit later. Let me first introduce my board of directors, the Board of County Commissioners, County Commissioner Susan Latvala, who is our chair, John Maroney, our vice chair, Nancy Bostock, commissioner, Neil Brickfield, commissioner, Norm Roach, commissioner, Karen Seal, commissioner, and Ken Welch, commissioner. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Bill to introduce his board, and then Julie will make an introduction as well. Then we'll give it to Stuart and to Andrea to get us going.
Good morning. Thanks, Bob. Is that by plan that you've put one in every the four corners, or do they just do that naturally?
No,
okay.
No amount of good planning ever replaces dumb luck.
First of all, thank you for being here today. I've been here just a short while, and about 6 or 7 months ago, the unemployment report came out, and that report, there were 53,000 citizens in Pinellas County who were out of work. 53,000. And I called Bob LaSalle, and I said, Bob, help me understand something. I'm new here. 53,000 people out of work. How come there's not a line outside my door with people saying, Mr. President, what are you doing about this? I said, not only is there not a line outside my door, I don't know who to call after you if we want to get something going. And Bob said, Bill, our strength is that we've got a lot of municipalities. We're dispersed. Our weakness is we've got a lot of municipalities. We're dispersed. It's really hard to get to the center of any discussion in Pinellas County. And I think that's a fair assessment. And you go first and I'll take the other side. It's a strength or a weakness. In this case, I think the weakness part is why we're here today. So through Bob's good efforts, working with Stuart and some others, we're trying to converge that. Can we get it to where there's a focus in Pinellas County that supports people getting back to work, supports businesses expanding, new businesses coming in, growing the economic enterprise? There's a wonderful book that if you haven't read it, I recommend it. Richard Florida, who has written a lot about economic and urban development, has a new book called The Great Reset. And his premise is the recovery this time is not going to be like it's always been. And it's going to require specifically a lot of different things in the education, preparation, and community development if we're going to prosper. So it's a great thought piece, and we ought to do that. Trying to get 3 boards together is Herculean, but we have some other friends here today that it's fundamental for you to understand how good the working relationships are. Margaret Sullivan from University of South Florida, St. Pete, is a great partner and a great community asset to all of us. She's here today. And she brought a friend along. She brought President Judy Ginshaft from the University of South Florida. Judy, you honor us with your presence here today. Margaret, we're glad that you could be part of this today. You are full partners in the dialogue here, okay? You didn't bring your board, but you have a lot to offer us, both do, and we hope you'll do that. We all work for somebody else, so I work for a board. Let me start with Terry Brett, who is the chairman of our board. Immediate past chairman is Ken Burke. Our vice chairman is Devron Gibbons. I saw Dick Johnston, who is been on. He's the dean of our board. He's been on for the long time, and Evelyn Bilirakis. So those are our 5 board members. Please say welcome to them. We clap, okay? And again, you are in. How many have been to the Collaborative Labs for an event before? Okay, so you know the drill. We're in for a good day. Superintendent Julie Jansen.
It seems like just yesterday, Dr. Law kind of moved quietly into town, but we have had the pleasure of working hand in hand, side by side with him, as we have with the University of South Florida, both the Tampa campus and the St. Petersburg campus. And as a school system, we are your feeders. You know, we are your farm. We raise those kids for you. And this is an effort that I believe is long overdue for us to get together to really talk about what role we each play in developing our future leaders, our future workforce in our county and beyond. And so it's exciting today to see all of the information that's been compiled by several groups, and then we can each decide and really determine what our roles are and how we each are an integral part of the success of and the future of Pinellas County. I am honored to have my board members here. I think almost everyone is here. We'll start with our board chair, Carol Cook. Mrs. Weichel is not here. She's our vice chair. Peggy O'Shea. Janet Clark. Mr. Williams, Lou Williams, is in the back. Terry Krasner is here also, and Linda Lerner, and she's our dean. Linda has been a long time member of our board, so we are delighted to be here.
Good morning. Thank you very much. My name is Stuart Rogel. For those of you who might not know me, I'm really thrilled that we're all here today. I've got a couple roles to play here today. I'm going to take you through just one PowerPoint presentation before we start talking amongst ourselves. I'm going to introduce you to the business leadership of the Tampa Bay Partnership. We have our CEO Direct class with us today, and in a minute I'm going to ask recognize all of them and ask them to stand a bit as well. We moved this CEO Direct class. We meet every month, and we moved it, and thanks to Dr. Genshaft, she normally this time of year tours the University of South Florida with the CEO Direct class. And so this class, pardon? It will happen. We will bring it back. I know we'll bring it back because they'll have to spend money at the bookstore. Get ready, CEO Direct class. But we will bring it back to USF. But this was so important that we all agreed that we wanted to bring our class here today and show the business leadership support and also learn about the regional business plan. And as your 3 boards are going to be doing some work in the collaborative labs here today, and when we break out CEO Direct class, we'll be doing some work to talk about the regional business plan and how they can advance that. But before I jump into all that, let me introduce Matt Silverman with the Tampa Bay Rays. Matt is on the executive committee of the Tampa Bay Partnership, chaired our Council of Governors last year, and is this year leading us in developing the next 3-year strategic plan for the Tampa Bay Partnership, which will guide our work for the next 3 years. And the work you're going to do today will be very, very important to help us to understand how we can begin to implement this significant portion of the strategic plan which relates to jobs, workforce development, and economic development. So with that, let me introduce Matt.
Thank you, Stuart. Good morning, and it's great to see so many familiar faces and have such a great group of people together here to talk about something that is very important to the future of Pinellas County, but also to the entire Tampa Bay region. And I come here with a number of different hats on. Stuart mentioned I'm the president of the Tampa Bay Rays. We are a locally based business. We are a regional business. We bring national and sometimes international attention to Tampa Bay and to St. Petersburg, Pinellas County. I am a Hillsborough County property owner. I reside in St. Petersburg, renting a condo in downtown St. Pete. As Stuart said, I am the chair of the 2012-2014 Tampa Bay Partnership Strategic Plan, and I'm going to get a dog, and I'm thinking of naming him Regionalism, because that seems to be the word of the day. A couple weeks back, the Tampa Bay Partnership convened a meeting to go through what we're looking for over the next couple of years for our strategic plan, and central to that conversation was this regional business plan that you're going to hear about today. And there's no coincidence that on the cover of the summary that you have in front of you, there's a big box that says jobs, because jobs is central to what we're trying to do. But it's not just about creating jobs and not just about reducing unemployment. It's about creating the right kinds of jobs and the clusters of jobs in our area and throughout our region that are going to propel us forward for the next several decades and for generations to come. All of us in this room are very heavily invested in the future of Tampa Bay. I am invested in the future of Tampa Bay, and it's going to take us pooling all of our collective resources, our individual resources, into a wider pool for us to be able to compete with other economies, other regional economies who may not have the same number of municipalities, the same number of cities and towns. If we can pull those together, we can compete, and we will be able to create those kind of jobs. I think about Tampa Bay. I think about why Stuart Sternberg invested in the Rays, why I moved here 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago, to work and to help develop the Tampa Bay Rays. And it was because of our belief, our belief in the long-term future of Tampa Bay. It wasn't about Pinellas County or Hillsborough County or any individual county. It was about the long-term belief in Tampa Bay, and we're not starting from zero. In fact, we have a lot of advantages. I think Stuart's going to walk through some of those. And what we want to do is build upon those advantages and the things that we have that differentiate us from other regional and local economies and build on those so that we can look back 20, 30, 40 years from now and see that we've been able to take advantage of the things that make Tampa Bay unique. So I'm very pleased to be here today and to kick this off, and I'm going to hand it over to Stuart to actually walk through the PowerPoint of the regional business plan. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate it. I'm going to introduce the CEO Direct class members, and as I do, ask you just please stand in your place. And there's 17 of them who are here today, and we appreciate you all being here. Commissioner Rebecca Bays from Citrus County. Is the commissioner here yet? Okay, well, I know she'll be here later. She's been very involved in what we do. And Citrus County is the newest county, the 8th county of the Tampa Bay region, so we're thrilled to have her. John Breen from AT&T. John's in the back. Welcome, John. Alan Brinkman from SunTrust. Alan's here? Not yet? Okay, well, he'll be joining us. Mark Connolly. I saw Mark earlier today. Mark, good morning. Robin Delaverne from Tampa General Hospital. Robin, thank you for being here today. Doug Deek from Ryan Companies. Is Doug here yet? No, well, Doug will be joining us. And Bill Dorman, Lanier Upshaw. Bill's, all right, we've got a few folks coming. Tracy Hood I saw from PB. Tracy, welcome. Glad you're here. Emery Ivory from United Way, Tampa Bay. Emery, welcome in the back. Nick Corris from Blue Cross Blue Shield. Nick, welcome. And let's see, Dave Punzak from Carlton Fields. How are you, Dave? Good to see you. Michael Rayner from PNC Bank. And Jerome Salentino from Pasco Hernando Workforce Board. Jerome, welcome. Jim Sampe, Valpac, just down the street here. And Kelly Schaefer. Kelly, I saw you earlier, from North Highlands. Elizabeth Van Este, very important to us with Televations because she keeps our phone system running. So if you have any problems trying to call me, talk to Elizabeth. And we're going to hear later from Mark Wimberly with Progress Energy. Mark, welcome. He's going to provide some comments because he wears many hats today as both Progress Energy, St. Pete Chamber, and also with the CEO Direct class. And Todd Timmerman is here too, our past chair, last year's chair of the CEO Direct, and you're going to hear a little bit in a little bit from Todd as well. What I'm going to do for the next 30 or 40 minutes, I think we're going to walk you through the regional business plan. I'm going to share some slides. I have been taking this on the road, if you will, through the 8 counties of the Tampa Bay region and making presentations like this. In fact, Bob Trudeau and I were talking about a presentation down in Bradenton that we had the other day with the Council of Governments, very similar to this. And so we've been taking this out and seeking input on this regional business plan. And as you learn, we've been working on it for about a year, a little over a year in terms of the work itself. And we're at a really critical junction with this plan because we're accepting the research and the work and the information that the consultants, SRI, a Pinellas-based company, Stanford Research Institute, SRI, has provided to us. And now we're asking ourselves, how do we make this happen? How do we implement it? How do we turn it from a plan into a reality and a very real world situation for how we grow jobs and the economic development? After I make the presentation, I'm going to ask Mike Meidel to talk a little bit and provide some color, if you will, Mike, as to how this relates to Pinellas County, because I'm going to be talking as I do at a regional level. Mike will help us to understand how this relates to Pinellas County. And Rod Irwin from City of Clearwater, I've seen Rod here. Rod, I'm going to ask you to make a few comments because you've been with us from the very beginning, and there's some interesting work that the City of Clearwater is doing. In fact, Rod and I will be over at the City of Clearwater making this very same presentation tonight. So we'd like to hear from that. And then, as I said, I'd like to ask Mark and a few of our CEO Direct class members to make some comments from a business perspective. But let me take you through this. This is an abbreviated version of the executive summary, which is an abbreviated version of all the research that we've done in this regional business plan. And if you'd like to dive deeper into any of this information, all this information is out on our website at tampabay.org, regional business plan. And I guarantee you, if we stacked it up, it'd be about that high. So you can either use it as a pillow or just let the weight crush down upon you. But there's lots of information to support all this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Tampa Bay Partnership so that you have the context of how we built this regional business plan. I think most of you have heard about the partnership, but if not, we're 8 counties. We run from Citrus County on the north all the way down to Sarasota on the south, all the counties in between, including Hernando, Pasco, Pinellas, Hillsborough, Manatee, and Polk counties. About 4 million people in the marketplace and growing. That's a surprise to some people in this climate and this economy, but we continue to grow. We have a labor force about 1.9 million, excuse me, and we're the 14th largest media market in the United States. And that's one of the reasons why we work at a regional level. There's strength in numbers. We have about 20% of Florida's population, and for some of the conversation later today, 25% of the legislative delegation comes from the 8 counties of Tampa Bay. And as Janet knows, in her days in Tallahassee, there's power in bringing that delegation together and working on common issues. So there's strength in numbers. This is a big market, the 14th largest market in the United States, and it is still a growing economy and will continue to grow as we move forward. The Tampa Bay Partnership is made up of about 160 businesses from all around the region. Those are some of the logos of some of the companies, very familiar companies to all of us. But I'll point your attention to that gray area, which is the map that I just showed. And inside that are the logos of the economic development organizations that work with the Tampa Bay Partnership. So the work we do is business-led, but it's a public-private effort to work on economic development at a regional level. And that's what we do, and that's what we do every day at the Tampa Bay Partnership. Some of our leadership, I point this, and I like to make these pictures as big as possible, but John Schuler of Media General, the Tampa Tribune and News Channel 8 is our chair this year. He apologizes he can't be here, but he had a much-planned family vacation, and he is out this week. Vinnie Dolan, who I think is on a call for Progress Energy as we speak, is our vice chair, and he is also the leader of this regional business plan. He has been guiding this effort since we started the regional business plan. And Chuck Sykes with Sykes Enterprises is our secretary-treasurer. So that's the lineup of some of our leadership going forward at the Tampa Bay Partnership. Now, many of you know the Tampa Bay Partnership from a lot of different capacities, but 17 years ago when we started, we were asked to be the regional marketer. In fact, we were talking last night, and it was Jack Critchfield at Florida Power who was one of the people who said, we've got to bring the region together, and we've got to work more effectively together. Marketing is what we could agree upon, and that's how we started. But then issues like Tampa Bay Water came along, and the business community was asked, how do we feel about those issues? Transportation was another one of those issues. Education was a third. Workforce, a fourth. How do we feel about those issues? So we as a business community convened on those issues, and we began to take positions and advocate for things like transportation, water, education, and workforce. Not giving up the regional marketing component, but adding to that. And now as we continue to grow and develop, we're asked to look at how do we grow prosperity? How do we work on these things like jobs and workforce? And how do we make a difference for our region? And that little blue box on the right is what Matt was talking about. That's the what's next, and that's what it says, is what's next. And that's our next three-year plan. Where do we go from here, and how do we work on the most immediate needs and the primacy of things like jobs and economic development? Now let's talk a little bit about Florida, and we've heard some of these stories before, but to set the context for this regional business plan, if you just roll the tape back about 5 years ago, think of what our economy was about. Construction was booming. Florida was the place that everybody wanted to get to as soon as possible. The moving vans were moving in and not out into Florida we know. We had the environment that attracted everybody, and think of what it was like 5, 6, 7 years ago to hire somebody. If they moved, we hired them. That's the old reality. And as Richard Florida said, the new reality is very different. Bill talked about that. The new reality is we're dealing with some of those impacts. And we don't need to talk about it, but from an economic development point of view, we've lost over 200,000 jobs in the Tampa Bay region during this time. What that's done is we have produced a regional scorecard for the last 5 years, and we've compared ourselves to places like Atlanta, Charlotte, Dallas, Raleigh, Durham, Jacksonville. 6 markets, 6 very different markets, and when we first started this scorecard, we were ranked second out of those 6 markets in terms of economic development. Now we are ranked 5th, and we've been bouncing around the last few years in the 5th and 6th place, and we don't see any real bump up right now, currently. How do we get out of that last place or that 5th or 6th place unless we start to focus on the things that matter, which is jobs and economic development? So at the Tampa Bay Partnership, we've learned that we have to look at what we call this concept of prosperity, or the model for prosperity. And that at the top of this, the triangle is prosperity. How do we grow the prosperity for our community? How do we address these issues of how do we become, create what I call the commonwealth? How do we improve the prosperity? And that's what we're all focused on, and that's what we all work on. And each one of our roles is looking at that from a community perspective. The way we do that, the way we grow prosperity, is through growth. And at the Tampa Bay Partnership, we talk about growth in 3 different ways. Productive growth, which is things like jobs and innovation. Anything that makes us more productive as a community gives us a competitive edge. But there's also inclusive growth, and I think all of you know what that's about. Everybody gets a chance to participate, either because they're educated, they're engaged, they can get to work, they can get to the opportunities that exist. They're included in this prosperity as we go forward. And then the third growth outcome is sustainable growth. And sustainability means a lot of things to a lot of people. But for this discussion, it means we don't outstrip our resources that exist here. And that's one of the lessons we've learned very hard. We grew too fast. We did not have sustainable growth. We didn't have the resources to maintain that growth. And so we saw that growth outcome is out of balance, and therefore we're not seeing the prosperity that we might like, and we've got to get back there. But there's nothing we can do about growth or prosperity other than focus on the drivers, which are at the bottom of this, which are things that help make growth occur. And that's innovation, human capital, infrastructure, and quality places. So at the Tampa Bay Partnership, we focus on those issues. And that's why we have many different things that we work on to address those different drivers of innovation, human capital, infrastructure, and quality places. And today, I think we'll probably be talking about to the left of those drivers, most likely, but I bet you we'll get into all of them as the conversation goes. But innovation and human capital, how do we create jobs, how do we create workforce, is really the key to the regional business plan, the work we're doing. At the partnership, we have a regional visioning effort that ties to things like T-BARTA. How do we connect the regional vision for land use, for health, for education? Steve Mason leads a healthy communities effort that is helping us understand what kind of healthy community we can be in the future. We're not going to talk about that today, but just know that we do have a regional visioning effort that looks at things like education, health, land use, transportation, how do we grow, and what kind of community we want to be. Jobs is the next big issue, and that's what we're going to talk about today in the regional business plan. Infrastructure, and you've heard the Tampa Bay Partnership quite a bit talk about transit and transportation, because that's a key infrastructure component, and it's key to all the things we're talking about. And then why we're here today is because of the advocacy and the leadership. It takes people working together to work on the issues, to say how can we make a difference, and you all know that better than anybody that I can speak to. So let's talk about the regional business plan and what we mean. And Matt was right. That logo, Jobs, is a very serious logo, so we made it as big as we possibly could so everybody in the back could read it, but this is what we're talking about, is jobs. We started looking at a regional business plan about 3 years ago, and we started asking the question, where will the jobs of tomorrow come from, and what will they look like? That's what the regional business plan addresses. What do we need to do now to grow jobs in our communities and in our region, and how do we engage in this effort? How do we work together? Because this is not one person standing up at the microphone or one organization or a small group of people saying this is what we're going to do. It's getting this community dialogue, like what you all have committed to today, to say how can we work together, because the more voices, the more understanding, the more successful we're going to be in creating jobs and growing the economy. So we did start about 3 years ago with our last strategic planning effort at the Tampa Bay Partnership. We were able to secure funding from the Economic Development Administration. We received a $500,000 grant to be able to do the research. It was matched by the workforce boards and the education institutions around the Tampa Bay region. And I think your investment was either $15,000 or $30,000, I can't remember, but you got a $600,000 study for the investment that Pinellas County made. We hired SRI International to do this work. It's the same SRI that's down at the waterfront in St. Petersburg working with USF Marine Science on marine science research and working on a number of different issues. We spent about a year with them because we dove very deeply into this idea of where are the jobs, what are the industry clusters, and what's the workforce going to be. So I literally mean we have a stack of reports very high and really diving deep into this. And now, as I said, we're at the point of what do we do with all this research? What we know is in order to grow our economy, we have to think of this as planting a tree, building an ecosystem for how do we create jobs, how do we create the economy of the future. This is going to take some time and it's going to take some work. This is not something that we do today and see the results tomorrow. It's something we have to work on and keep at it to be able to grow. The sectors we looked at, and they're in your report, the 4 sectors that we looked at that SRI actually said, here are the sectors that exist in Tampa Bay today, and here are the potential for job creation in the future. And those 4 sectors are outlined in this executive summary, and we've provided both an identification or a summary of those sectors, what they mean, and what we need to do to be able to help those sectors to grow. The 4 sectors are applied medicine and human performance, high-tech electronics and instruments, marine and environmental activities, and business, financial, and data services. Those are the 4 sectors that we feel have the greatest potential to create high-skilled, high-wage, high-value jobs and continue to grow in the Tampa Bay region. They're not the only sectors that are going to grow in this economy, so don't mistake this to say other areas of our economy aren't important or won't grow, but these are areas we can begin to focus on and get the best return for the work that we do and the time and the resources we spend in trying to grow jobs in our economy. And I'll share with you that these sectors cross a lot of different boundaries and a lot of other different industries as well. And let me just take one example in applied medicine and human performance, how that might work. We have great research, medical research that's occurring all around the region, at the universities, at the private institutions, everywhere we can think of, at the hospitals, both here in Pinellas and throughout. We have a lot of research going on, a lot of medicine. We have medical instruments that are being developed here. In fact, Pinellas is one of the centers and one of the capitals of medical instruments in the world, certainly in the country, if not the world. I may be bragging a little bit, Mike, but you keep me on the straight and narrow. So we know we have that, and we have to grow that sector, and we have to focus on things like how do we get more clinical trials, how do we get more research, and how do we learn how to commercialize those ideas, that innovation that I talked about, and turn them into real products. But we also have a potential that we're not even thinking about, and this is just one example of the different potentials that exist in this report. And I might add, we asked SRI, because if we all got on a plane today and we went to another community and said, what are the sectors you're interested in? They would say medicine, they might call it biotech. They'd say electronics and instruments. They'd say business, financial, and data services. They might not say marine because of our geography, but that would be very similar to any place, anywhere else we go. San Diego, you name it, Charlotte. So we challenged SRI to go deeper and dive deeper and say, where can we be first and best in these areas? Where can we differentiate ourselves so we're not like San Diego, we're not like Charlotte? Where's our competitive advantage? And furthermore, what do we need to do to leverage that competitive advantage? So one example of where they said, here's where you can intersect between what's happening today and how you can grow this industry is what I'll call destination medicine. Some have called medical tourism. I like the term destination medicine a little bit better. And here's how it works. Right here in Florida, in the Tampa Bay region, in Pinellas County, no one does tourism better than we, correct? Can we agree with that? Tourism is something we know, how to be hospitable to people, whether it's going to Matt's baseball games, going to the beaches, going to the hotels, visiting the museums, experiencing what we have to experience. We can be the best. If we also have the best medical care and the best research where you can get cutting-edge treatment and care, think of how the world will come to our door. Not just to enjoy the beaches, but to get healthy, to be healthy, and to be able to enjoy what we have already existing here. So we merge those industries of medicine, research, healthcare, tourism, and other industries. I was in front of Adam Putnam, Commissioner of Agriculture, a couple weeks ago. He says, how does agriculture fit into this? Well, in marine environmental activities, we started, one of the ideas that was identified, it's burgeoning, it's not a huge industry, but it has huge potential, algae production. Algae production. As soon as I said that, Commissioner Putnam's eyes lit up and he said, now we're talking. Let's figure out how to make this work. Why algae production? Because you can do two things with algae once you produce it. You can squeeze it and get oil out of it, which you can burn. And once you've squeezed it and got all the water out, you have this dry powder that you can burn. So it can be a fuel production. It can be a renewable resource. So agriculture, one of our key components, maybe not here in Pinellas, but throughout the region, throughout the state, has the potential to tie into this environmental activities and looking at how we grow renewables. So this work has been not to cover the waterfront, but to say, when we look at these target sectors, we look at how should we grow, where can we be first or best, where can we differentiate, where do we have a competitive edge and we can compete in a global market here in Tampa Bay. And there's some examples in your executive summary, and again, we have numerous examples throughout the report of what we need to do throughout the research, what we need to do to turn some of those on. But we also, when we looked at the target industries, we also said we have to think of some of the ways of how we do economic development. How do we promote and market ourselves? How do we make sure we've got that infrastructure? How do we make sure that that tree will grow? And we have all the ingredients that we need for our economy to grow. So another thing that SRI recommended was that we need to think about how we promote ourselves. We are really good at promoting place in Tampa Bay and in Florida. Come to Florida, come to name a beach, name a city, name a place. But what was suggested here is that if we have this strength at a regional level and we have these skills, we need to begin to think about promoting ourselves as a regional economy and as an innovative economy. And that's how we compete on a global level, and SRI told us that's how successful regions around the world are beginning to market themselves. Think about Silicon Valley. Is San Jose in that name? No, but do we all know Silicon Valley, know where it is? Yep, we sure do. Research Triangle, we've heard that. Do we know that that's Raleigh and Durham? Maybe not, but we certainly know it's in North Carolina. We know what it stands for. What do we stand for, and how do we promote ourselves at an integrated and an innovative level? Also, we need to strengthen business retention and expansion at a regional level and at a local level. We have to focus on retention and expansion. Mike and I and all of you get giddy when we get an announcement about a company coming to town, and those are important, and we need to celebrate those successes. But 70, 80, 90% of the job creation is going to come from existing businesses that we look to expand and grow in the Tampa Bay region. And this regional business plan, as I mentioned, talks about what's existing, what's our strengths. So how do we focus on the things that we've got, and how do we get better at growing jobs and growing the businesses that are here in our region? And then third, we have to think of building and strengthening our innovation and our entrepreneurial ecosystem. We've got to find ways to be able to add more tools to the toolkit when someone comes in and says, I want to create a business, or I want to take an idea and move it forward. How do I get funding? How do I get technical support? How do I find the workforce that I need to be able to grow this business and grow this idea? And that idea of building a stronger innovation and entrepreneurial system is something that we haven't necessarily had to do because our economy was built on different building blocks of construction, of tourism, of agriculture. But now we've got to think about how do we add tools to the toolkit to be that kind of economy that we want to be. So there's some foundational recommendations we need to work on, and we're going to work on them together. We'll work on them as an economic development organization and with our economic development partners, but we all need to think about how can we add those tools to the toolkit. Finally, a lot of discussion about workforce. And half of this report was looking at the industry clusters that exist, and half of the report was looking at the talent, the workforce that exists in the region. And some recommendations about workforce is to expand the partnerships between the target clusters and the workforce development systems. And that's one of the things I think we're doing here, and that's one of the things that Bob LaSala and Bill Law thought would be interesting to bring all of us together, business and public officials together, to talk about how do we expand those partnerships and how do we really strengthen and grow the workforce development system at all levels, Additionally, how do we build more collaboration amongst the workforce and the educational institutions? One theme that SRI kept sharing with us is what I call the connecting the dots theme. There are so many good things going on throughout the region, and particularly when it comes to workforce. But how do we connect those dots, and how do we share those resources? How do we break down some of those barriers so that somebody in Sarasota who can help Pinellas to grow, how can they get access to services that are being provided in Hernando County? How do we connect those dots and build those collaborations more strongly? So we're talking about that, and I hope maybe in your conversations we can talk a little bit about that. How do we tie some of these institutions together? Also, how do we tell the story to the workforce that there's opportunities here if you get plugged in, if you follow, if you start to get involved and you look at and you get a job at any level in these target industries? What's the career ladder? What's the skills training that you can be provided? What's the opportunity to grow in that job from whatever level you start at to the highest level in the organization? And that's a challenge that businesses have to identify those career ladders, and educational institutions have to say, how can we help you develop the training and the skills to provide that career ladder? And there's some creative things being done in the region to make that happen and to look at that, and we can explore some of those. So in addition to the target sectors and the job opportunities in those target sectors, there's opportunities to expand and grow and highlight our workforce development system, and to look at how we market, how we promote, how we do economic development, how do we provide the support to those targeted industries. Next steps is that we have an implementation structure in place. As I mentioned, Vinny Dolan is chairing this effort for us, and we're right now recruiting our steering committee and our working groups, and we have some folks in place. Dr. Genshaft has agreed to participate, and Jim Sampe from Valpak is going to help us with one of the working groups, and we have others, and we have, in fact, at your place, we've put a little sign-up sheet if you're interested in participating, or if you know of somebody who needs to know about the plan or you'd like to share this with, or if you're interested in a working group or just want to get more information about this, provide us, send this sign-up sheet back to us, give it to me or one of the Tampa Bay Partnership teams that's here, or just send me an email out at srogel@tampabay.org, and we'll make sure we get you plugged in. So we're starting that implementation. It's going to be heavy on working with the industries that are up at the top there. It's hard to read that, but those colored boxes at the top are the 4 target sectors that we identified. We're going to be organizing them, creating what we call cluster champions to understand what their needs are and understand how they can, what are the kinds of things that they need to be provided to help their companies grow. That's going to drive a whole series of initiatives in how we grow the target sectors, but it's also going to push down into those economic development or foundational and workforce initiatives to know the things that we need to do there. So implementation is beginning, and we encourage you all to get involved in that. And as I said, in order to be successful, we need to make sure that the community, we have a community-wide support in this effort. And let me give you one example of how this works. Actually, there's 3 examples. There's more than that in the region, but 3 that I really like to point to. One is logistics and supply chain management in Polk County, which is a whole industry built around Publix. The third is business, financial, and data services that Hillsborough County, Pinellas County, and other counties share. And then here in Pinellas County with medical devices. And when I came to town 20 years ago, I started trying to find out what was going on with economic development in the region. So when I came to Pinellas County, I said, where are the jobs going to occur in Pinellas County? What's the industry that can grow? And when I would talk to the county commissioners, they would say medical devices. I said, really? Yep, we have a growing population. These medical device companies are in places like Minneapolis, where it's cold and expensive, or Long Island, where it's just expensive, or other places, and they need to be down where the population is growing. Great. What do we need to do? Well, we need to make sure they're smaller manufacturers. We've got to make sure we seek them out. We explain the benefits of coming to Pinellas County or coming to Tampa Bay. Super. How do we do that? Go up to Long Island, go to Minneapolis, tell them the story, start hosting them down here, talk about the hospitals that are here. All this was going on whether I talked to the commission, the chamber, economic development organizations, developers, people who are building the buildings. I'd say, well, how do we get them here? We need financing. Great. How do we do that? Industrial revenue bonds are pretty attractive. That helps them with financing. Terrific. Do we have a strong IRB program here in Pinellas County? Yes, we do. All right. So we can move forward and do this. And so all the way down the chain, whatever it was, everybody knew that medical devices could grow in Pinellas County 20 years ago. And guess what? They've grown. They're a significant industry cluster. Well, that's what we can do with this regional business plan on a regional level with industries. Times are different. The industries might be a little bit different, but we can grow those kinds of industries if we just keep at it. So that's how you can get involved, participate in a working group, help to educate others about the regional business plan, and collaborate as we're doing today to identify what it is that we need to do to turn on the business plan. If we start today, we'll be able to grow that tree very tall, and it might not even take 20 years if we work really hard at it, but we can get started and do that. What I'd like to do right now is ask Mike Meidel to come up and share with us a little bit about what I've just talked about, but put that into context of what's really happening in Pinellas County and some of his thoughts about how the business plan might support the work that's being done in economic development in Pinellas. Mike?
Perfect, thank you. Appreciate it. Well, we are very fortunate here in Pinellas County that the cluster study identified for the Tampa Bay Partnership region meshes perfectly with what we already have here in Pinellas County. The goal of the target industry study is to develop a well-balanced, diversified, innovative base of businesses, and that's exactly describes Pinellas County right now. A lot of people think of Pinellas County for tourism, and we hear tourism's our #1 industry. But actually, there are more people employed in healthcare. 65,000 people in Pinellas County work in healthcare, and that's far more than all the hotels, restaurants, and bars combined. So that's something to think about. And then also within Pinellas County, we are the #2 manufacturing employment center in the state of Florida. Only Miami has more people who actually work day to day in manufacturing, and many of Miami's employers are apparel and lower wage industries. We have high technology industries, and just the medical devices has already been discussed, but electronics, aerospace, defense, many opportunities there. Plus our IT and our financial services sector. So we're not, we've got manufacturing, but we've got a diverse base of manufacturing, far beyond just the medical devices. To give you an idea, he talked about the 4 big clusters for the study. In Pinellas County, we've been working with our own clusters for many years, and you'll see how these overlap. Our top clusters are medical devices, aviation and aerospace, IT, financial services, advanced manufacturing, and then we took up a new cluster for R&D and marine science. So you can see these overlap perfectly. These are the things we've been working on for 10 years or more, and they line up perfectly, which the benefit to Pinellas County in all of this is part of the outcome, we hope, of the Tampa Bay effort is developing about $1 million marketing program, and we will be able to tap into that. Everything that they're marketing, that the region is innovative and the broad, diverse base of businesses, we'll be able to tag onto because we've got a piece of every one of those 4 sectors. To give you just some real realities here, we are in the heart of our manufacturing sector right now. You drive down Ulmerton Road or 49th Street or 66th Street and you don't realize it. You get a better feel if you drive down Bryan Dairy Road, and you get an idea. But right next door to us is Melita, a German company that makes coffee filters, but that's a manufacturing plant next door. And just down the street, we've got a company that makes surge suppressors, but they're one of the foremost surge suppressor companies in the world. They customize their product, have a lot of engineering staff that works together with the manufacturers and the folks that are installing electrical grids and solar farms and everything else, and they gear their product specifically to that use. That means there's a lot of high-wage employees there that are working every day on engineering, R&D, and just problem-solving type issues and develop the product for it. On the medical device side, we've got the big names, Baxter Healthcare, Smith & Nephew, but we've got Catalent, who also encapsulates pharmaceuticals. We've got West Pharmaceutical that does some more packaging materials. We've got Lincare. We've got, on the medical device side, some names you may know. The big one is ConMed Linvatec for us. They make arthroscopic equipment. But beyond that, we've got companies that make pacemaker leads and catheters and diagnostic devices and a lot of components for implantable medical devices. We've got a lot of companies that make orthotics and prosthetics. And in fact, St. Pete College even came up with an entire curriculum revolving around that industry to help support it. And that's one of the strengths, too, of Pinellas County, is that all of our education at every level, from K to 12 to the PTAC to St. Pete College to USF St. Pete, are geared toward meeting the needs of our industries. And they have for years worked with our employers, helped identify what curriculum needs to be developed and help develop that. Now, we can obviously do that better, and that's part of the reason we're all here today, is talk about how we can do that a little better, how we can coordinate a little better. But our centers of excellence in our high schools, geared around the industries that we have, taking that all the way up. And beyond that, too, talking about the entrepreneurship program, not only do we have a broad base of industries already here, everything from Fortune 500 companies like Jabil Circuit and Tech Data, down to companies, most of our medical device companies are 20 to 30 employees, but we've got several hundred of them. And that is a strong base of employment. But in having all of this diverse base of industries, naturally during the business cycle, there are downsizings, and you have very smart, very capable people out on the street. And their choice is, now I'm going to find another job, I may move out of the area, or I've had this idea for years, I'm going to start my own company and start marketing that. So we have a strong entrepreneurship, innovation type economy here that has developed through that over the years. In fact, much of our defense industry was developed from the big three that came down here very early in the 50s, GE and Honeywell and E-Systems. But over the years, with federal contracts and defense contracts coming and going, people gradually spun off, and they've got a lot of companies out there now, everything from batteries for surface-to-air missiles to guidance systems to sensors and homing devices to wireless communications and telepathy. So there's a lot going on, and it's all because of that innovation and the smart people we bring into the area and the smart people we've developed through USF, through our school systems. We need to continue that engine and help to really rev it up even more, to bring more people in, to develop those career ladders that Stu talked about. Because part of what we need, even in this economy, when we've got over 10% unemployment, our manufacturers are complaining they can't find the people they need. And they can't find people willing to work in manufacturing, number one, and I think that's because of the misunderstanding of what manufacturing labor is all about. And what we need to do is get kids into these factories and get excited about what they're doing, using high-tech materials. They're cutting advanced metals with streams of water, you know, and and heat treating processes and chemical processes that are out there. There's a lot of really cutting-edge things happening that kids can get excited about. It's not screwing the same screw into the same hole every day in an assembly line format. It's a lot of innovative ideas, a lot of programming the CNC machines and helping to create things and helping to problem solve and keep that line running. So and I could go on for hours, but I need to transition over and let you hear from City of Clearwater, and we do partner with Clearwater. They've developed a plan too, so you're seeing we've got levels of plans for which way we go and which industries we're promoting, but you'll see how we overlap so well with Clearwater too, and I'll just turn over to Rod.
Well, thank you and good morning, everyone. It was a real pleasure for me when Stuart said, why don't you come from the City of Clearwater and say a little bit what this means down from the 30,000 level down to the 10,000 level. And we had conversation earlier about, you know, a lot of municipalities and what this may mean. But from the City of Clearwater standpoint, the message I want to bring today is that we're fully committed to this plan. We think this plan makes sense at the operational level, at the municipal level, as well as at the regional level, and that, as Mike said, it's a compatibility and not a competition or a disconnect. When Stu was talking about back 4 years ago, looking about where the jobs would come from moving forward and, you know, what the negative impacts of real estate and tourism and construction in terms of cyclical economy, we were engaging in the same discussion. And Clearwater has probably been the poster child for tourism and that factor. And we were, you know, we've been going through 5 years of drastic cutbacks in services and this dialogue about how do we maintain an acceptable level to be competitive, both economically and to provide the level of services that people want in a constrained environment. So, you know, it gave us the opportunity, and we said, let's take a look within the context of the Tampa Bay Partnership study at our own local situation, how we can leverage that and move forward locally. So we retained a company actually from Austin, which is one of the very successful areas on tech, and they just presented Monday to our city council the result of that report, and they've reinforced what Stu and SRI have been doing in terms of the 4 basic cluster groups as something that we can build on and actually contribute to the regional effort. And they added a couple, one in software, which we think we can build a nascent industry, and another one in professional services, which they cast a little bit different than what we're doing. It was very well received by the City Council. I think they've asked us to come back in end of September with an implementation recommendation schedule to move to develop an incentives policy, to look at how we can begin to do overlay districts that can promote health and human services around the Morton Plant area, to look at some more intense office development around the US 19 corridor as we begin to see that redevelop and some of that underutilized commercial is not there. to set up a technology district in our downtown and East Gateway, which will allow us to incentivize and work with startups that are already there. We're going to be doing, a much stronger effort at the local level on business attraction and retention. And we've been asked to come back with a kind of a reorganization of how we can move more into that at the local level, working with the county and the partnership to try to be more effective. But the key to that from our standpoint, is we were talking earlier, is going to be workforce. We can't develop the workforce we need to make these things happen without the kind of institutions that are in the room today. Some of the numbers that came back for us, we've got a third of our households, not people, households, in the city of Clearwater make less than $25,000 a year. 25% of the jobs in the city of Clearwater, 40,000 or less. An over-reliance on residential property taxes, 70% of our property tax base is residential, as opposed to only 16% in commercial and industrial. So those numbers, grow out of tourism and a lot of other things that have been characteristic of us. But I think because of this economic transition, everybody sees an opportunity to move forward, recast our economic future, expand our economic base, and get out of this trough and peak, try to flatten it out and to create better jobs and better futures for our city. So we're fully supportive of this regional effort, think that we can work closely and leverage what partnership's doing, and we've been supportive from the beginning, and we're going to. And so we look forward to working also with the college, and Stan Vidito from St. Pete College was on the steering committee for our study. Mike Meidel was on the steering committee for our study, and we think that this issue of clusters is not just at the region level, it's something we can all get value out of. And I would give you a little, just an example, if I might. I grew up in the Capital District region in New York, and that area in the 1970s and 80s, when manufacturing all left because of environmental and other things, became a poster child for obsolescence. But, the leadership there started in the 80s and 90s with government leadership, a lot of it, George Pataki and the leaders in the state government at that time, along with SUNY Albany, which had a nanotech piece that was kind of underutilized, and with the presence of key employers like IBM, they said, we can take this, make this nanotech a cluster and really revitalize the whole area. And what is happening there now is amazing. Not only at the SUNY area, but the surrounding areas, and some of the manufacturing that took an underutilized manufacturing workforce, transitioned them. And we think this, that same model is available for the Tampa Bay region, and just maybe the stars are aligned this time so that we can take advantage of it. And City of Clearwater is supportive, and we're looking forward to working with all your groups and on the workforce piece and try to make it happen.
Great. Thank you, Rod. Appreciate it. We're sort of getting towards the end, but I did want to ask Mark Wimberly to say a few words. And before I did, I neglected a couple thank yous. Bob started this by explaining how this all began, and I want to thank you, Bob, for this idea and helping bring us together. And to Bill Law, thank you very much for having the understanding and helping bring us together. And Julie Jansen, thank you so much. So to the three of you, thanks for giving us this opportunity to be able to have this session. And I should have started that way, and I apologize, but thank you all very much. With that, let me introduce Mark Wimberly from Progress Energy.
Thanks, Stu. Good morning. When you hear the phrase chicken and the egg, does it connotate a negative impression in your mind, or is it a positive impression? It's normally negative. We look at it, if we don't have the chicken, we don't want you to have the chicken. But a chicken lays eggs, and guess what come from eggs? Chickens. So if you have the chicken and I have the eggs, I've got a chicken. So I would tell you that's the way we ought to look at it. When businesses develop regionally, then jobs are created regionally, and our communities prosper. Vice versa, when our communities prosper, when our region prospers, our businesses prosper. So it truly is a positive connotation, and we should look at it that way. You know, many of the key issues we face in our community today really are regional issues. I mean, we've been through one in the last year, transportation, which truly any solution that's driven has to be a regional solution. We cannot solve some of the problems we face independently. We have to collaborate as a region and work together. So I would tell you that it is extremely important. We view it, you know, as Progress Energy. I view it with my hat as the chairman of the St. Petersburg Chamber of Commerce and also as a member of the CEO Direct program, that we have to collaborate regionally, and that as prosperity comes, we all experience a prosperity from that collaboration. So you know, we compare ourselves, and you saw a chart up earlier where we compared ourselves against other regions of similar size and makeup. And as Stu said, we kind of bounce around the bottom of that. And if we're ever going to not just be competitive as a region, hold our own, but if we're going to actually excel as a region, it's going to require us to work together and to develop joint solutions and not independent solutions. I'd also make the observation that we cannot be all things to all people. You diversify your effort to a point where you cannot achieve if you're focusing on all things. And I think this blueprint gives us an opportunity to focus in on the things that we're good at, to look at the areas where we have some gaps that we can close and make them areas of strength, and then capitalize on those areas. You've heard of a few: medical, high-tech electronics, financial services, marine and environmental. And they're prevalent throughout our community. So I guess the question is, how can each of us today get involved? How can we bring this issue forward? First, it is through involvement. It is through not just sitting in a chair listening to a presentation, but becoming involved in what's going on regionally, in our communities, in our organizations. I would tell you that, you know, as the St. Petersburg Chamber of Commerce, what we are doing and what we have made a decision to do is to reach out to those organizations, to SRI, to St. Pete College, to USF St. Pete. Others in our tech data, Jable, you name them, to reach out to them, to look at how we can help them, you know, in this regional economy and work together. So I would tell you, it's up to each one of us to go and do that. Finally, I would tell you, communicate and share. Simple things. The Chambers of Commerce had not met as a region before I became the chairman of the St. Petersburg Chamber of Commerce. That just astonished me, that we had not sat down as a group and talked about our objectives, our strategies, and then how we could work together. The first thing that each of us noticed was we have a lot more in common than we are different, and that our objectives were essentially the same, and that by working together we had a much better opportunity to accomplish our objectives than by working independently. So communicate and share. The last thing I would leave you with is no great accomplishment has ever been achieved without two things: risk and leadership. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you, Mark. I'm going to before I turn it over to Andrea and we get to the work of the day, I'm going to tell a real quick story about Mark and what he just shared. I got a phone call. It was the Friday before Christmas from Mark, and I thought, wow, cool, Christmas present from Mr. Wimberly. And he says, I got to share something with you. He says, you're not going to like this, but you got to know that we're going to steal a guy named Chris Steinacher, who's worked for 16 years at the Tampa Bay Partnership, and bring over to St. Pete Chamber. I said, so much for a Christmas present. But actually, it was the greatest Christmas present we could ever have, because we're so proud of what Chris is doing at the St. Pete Chamber. We're so pleased to have him there. We miss him dearly at the Tampa Bay Partnership, but not too much, because we moved up to new offices, and he's going to be jealous when he sees the space. But we're so glad he's there, and we're so pleased that we can partner with the St. Pete Chamber and the Clearwater Chamber and many of the other organizations to address these issues. So thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. With that, let me turn it over to Andrea Henning, who's going to guide us through the rest of the day. I thank you again for the time to be able to share this information, and now I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you. So with that, Andrea.
Thank you, Stuart. Sure. Welcome to the Collaborative Labs. It's an honor to have you here today, and thank you for your leadership in our community. And we are here to do important work. Are you ready? Yes. Okay. I'd like to ask our team to pass out the collaborative mission, so you will receive here in a moment what we're going to be doing over the next hour and a half. And CEO Direct class, it's a great privilege to have you here as well. Stay tuned for your instruction sheet. That's coming here in a few moments. But the first instruction sheet we're going to pass out is for the board team. Part one of this mission this morning is a collaborative discussion. We're going to divide our three boards. Actually, we're going to cross-pollinate you into three teams. And so we're going to have some good collaborative discussion on three questions. And the first portion, part one, will take 60 minutes. So that means 20 minutes a question. And I will make this a lot more interesting than your instruction sheet if you want to kind of look upward. The first question is around what current board policies create opportunities for us to realize this regional business plan we've been focused on this morning. So you'll spend about 20 minutes in your cross-pollinated teams discussing this and coming up with the current board policies that create opportunities to realize the regional business plan. Question two, what can boards do to grow jobs and to develop skilled workforce in the targeted industries? That's question two. And so we'll get your thoughtful answers on that question. Question three will be around what collaborative opportunities can the different boards, the three different boards, plus businesses embark on to realize this regional business plan. So those are the three questions. Do those sound like meaningful questions to grapple with? We have the right stakeholders in the room to do it, so we're in good shape. When you get to your teams, as we mentioned, we'll spend 20 minutes per question. And you'll see this kind of robust brainstorming software before you. And we will ask you to focus on one question at a time. And it happens to be in bucket one. So the current policies that will help advance the plan will be your first bucket. You simply type answers in the lower column here. You hit insert, and voila, it appears on the electronic whiteboard for all to see. So not only are your team, is your team seeing the work of what you're doing, but you're also seeing the ideas of the other teams flow in real time. Very dynamic, so if you run out of ideas, you'll be inspired by the other teams. Once we get a healthy list, let's say 15 to 20 ideas, that'll probably take 10 to 15 minutes, we'll ask each team to pick the top two policies that advance this plan. And you can pick from any of the list, whichever ones you think are the best. It doesn't have to be those contributions of your team. And you simply drag it over to this second bucket, the best board policies bucket. So what that means is we're going to elevate the top 6 board policy items that will advance the plan. That's the net of 20 minutes. Then we'll go to the next question, and we'll spend another 20 minutes, the same process. How does that feel to you? Will that work? All right. Then we will go into part 2, which is a half an hour, and we will divide and conquer. So we'll have each board go into your own corners, And we'll ask you, based on some of the good, thoughtful discussion, what bold actions can you take to help advance the regional business plan? And so we'll ask you to capture those, again, in the brainstorming software. And we may ask you to elevate your top 2 or 3 bold actions as well, so we can net those out. And after 30 minutes of great discussion, we'll reconvene here in the Tropics Lab, and we will hear from each of you. So that is our hour and a half ahead. Nobody's leaving the building, so that's, oh, Bob's getting up. It's okay. All right, the collaborative process, we do things a little differently. You can tell our space is a little different, so is our process. And we, as I mentioned, will be working in teams. Let me introduce you to our support team, which is our Collaborative Labs team. We have our own board affiliations. Joyce is on keyboard over here, and she will be capturing the wisdom that comes from this group. And by tomorrow, 24 hours, we will have a full dynamic real-time record of the outcome of this group of people today. So we will send that to you via email. Jonathan is on whiteboard, and he will be capturing, kind of in a visual masterpiece, all of the great bold actions and strategies that our boards and our business leaders come up with today to advance the regional business plan. So we will see that before we leave, kind of unfold and unveil before us. You can see he's in thought. He's pondering. All right, and I am the facilitator. I will be joining you in a moment in the Forest Lab. And by day I do this, by night I'm often on piano keyboard doing piano compositions. PJ is our technology guru. He will be driving all of our technology. And when he's not here, he's on surfboard. He's a surfer. And then Alan is our business development officer. He will be facilitating our CEO Direct team, and you will be heading to the water. The 3 boards will be heading to the forest, and he'll be facilitating the CEO Direct team's work. When he's not here, he's generally on cutting board, cutting the fillets because he's an avid fisherman. So, but our most important work is to help the boards here today come up with some great ideas to advance the business plan. When you get into your teams, we'll ask you to appoint a keyboarder, someone who's savvy on the keyboard like Joyce, who can help capture your great brainstorming. We will also ask you to appoint a spokesperson. So when I come to your team and say, tell us what your team came up with, you don't kind of point at each other. You have a spokesperson ready to share the great ideas from your teams. We move to music around here, so get ready to move. We will either, move you to a new team or move you back here to the Tropics Lab. And finally, we don't have formal breaks built in, so you're on your own with that. Feel free to take a break as you need it to refresh coffee, water. We also have restrooms, which are an important stop. That is down the hallway, a left and a left. And so we look forward to a very productive morning. Are you ready? So board members, we invite you to head out the back and hang a left, and you'll find your teams 1 through 3. CEO Direct, you can head out the back, hang a right, and we'll meet you in the water lab.
College went to a 4-year school, and they came up with
career technical education. We find in all areas of education, this is probably the single area of education that is the most fragmented.
And there's a new component to that that deals with high school students that we don't remember the name of. Committee that works with us.
Everybody wants Deborah on it. And he wants to be your place. Yeah, no, I mean, no.
There's regional groups from the state.
We turn wrenches and tweak things and fix things in air conditioning in this industry.
So for us, I think from a profit standpoint.
Looks like the Board of County Commissioners, you all had a robust list of bold actions. I'd like to ask Commissioner Latvala if you can please share.
Thank you. And we had a robust conversation as well. Now, somebody keep tabs and make sure that we implement all this. But most importantly, the 10,000 jobs initiatives that was discussed in one of the other groups, 10,000 small businesses. How can we match it? How can we approach economic development by reviewing and revising? and engage our top businesses in the community, different ones that aren't at the table now. We've got to get everybody working together with us to be successful. How can 3 boards work together, the 3 of us here today, in the private sector to determine which sectors are growing and talk to them? Not just what's already been identified, but what else is going on in our community, those little businesses that we don't even know about. And what are they doing? What are they doing that is working, that can be translated and shared with others? Do we have the right database, businesses, intelligence to support us, to use in our decision-making processes? Look at where we have regulations beyond where we're required and go forth and streamline them. We talk about this all the time, and maybe we do one a year. We've got to look at every ordinance in the county, every regulation, and of course, the book is this thick, but we've got to do that and make sure that we're not hindering businesses from growing and coming here. And use that information as a springboard to expand the circle of groups, other partners that we engage, and how do we collaborate on economic development. Economic development departments, and there are many of them throughout the county. Several cities have them as well as the counties. Some chambers are very aggressive in that. And how do they collaborate together and not, if something doesn't, some client that you're working with doesn't work in your community, in your jurisdiction, do they go to Pasco County, or do we call the city next door and see if they can help? We've got to make sure that that's happening and that we're keeping them here in our community. What other city has available land for businesses? That's just a springboard extenuation of that. Who has something that we didn't know about? Who's got a piece of land? Who's got buildings that are ready to be redeveloped that we're not aware of, that we can help find a fit for? And most importantly, take advantage of the opportunity that we have right now. There's a great need in our community, in our state, in our country, and we have to utilize this opportunity and make lemonade out of these lemons.
Appreciate it. All right, I'd like to invite the Pinellas County School Board, your spokesperson. Please come and share your bold actions. Looks like you have 3. Ms. Cook? You're the appointed one.
We have a hard time following directions, apparently. You know, as we were going through it, we kept saying, you know, our actions aren't that bold, but they're necessary in order for this to move forward. And there are things that keep getting put on the back burner. So maybe the bold part of it is taking it off the back burner and putting it first and foremost. To formalize the relationships between P-TECH and St. Pete College, University of South Florida, all of those, so that some of the transition can be a little easier. For example, we have dual enrollment that we have from our high schools into P-TECH. Well, could we have a dual enrollment type program from P-TECH into the colleges and get that working more smoothly? Can we also do some things so that we're looking at ways of providing AA or AS degrees through P-TECH, which allows it not to be just the technical school that people think it is, but an institute, like some of these that are coming up and springing up all over the place. And then what are the needs, and how can we move seamlessly among them? Collaborate with WorkNet and other businesses to create that database so that all 3 of the boards would be able to have the information of what's necessary with jobs. It seems like the information comes from all over the place, and we want to be able to go to one spot. As far as listening with one ear, one set of ears, and having one voice, this would also be one source of information and work with that. Some of the legislative initiatives that may be necessary through all of this could be regional. If we have 25% of the legislators in our region, then look at what is necessary. One of the issues is Pell Grants, for example. Some of the coursework takes less than the amount of time necessary for a student to be able to get the Pell Grants, but yet they're not able to get them and then not able to afford the education that would be available. So there could be some legislative issues regionally that could go on, and it may be coming together and looking at what are the things that we all have in common, and how do we move forward with that. So, you know, while none of, like I said in the beginning, while none of them are real bold issues, they're necessary and they need to come to the forefront.
And let us ask SPC, your Board of Trustees, who is your spokesperson? Please come forward and share your bold actions. Mr. Brett?
We had a workshop here in this room back in January trying to map out our year and what our priorities were going to be. And we talked a whole lot about creating jobs, and we had kind of felt that SBC was probably one of the, if not the premier institution in Tampa Bay to be able to create jobs quickly with all of our certificates that we can offer. You know, there are a lot of folks that are out of jobs, out of work, and they don't have 2 or 4 years to get a degree to turn around and get back into the workforce. And so if we can identify the needs for certificates, that we felt like SBC was very well positioned to be able to meet that need. Our big question was, how can we identify the next wave of jobs so that we can prepare the coursework to be ready to meet that need? And hopefully SRI and this study has been able to answer some of those questions. They talked about marine science and healthcare and technology and finance. So, in speaking with Julie during our little group, we felt like she was the first tier, Pinellas County Schools, getting the students ready to enter into SBC. The county, with their economic development arm, can hopefully identify some of the next waves as far as what certificates we need to be offering 5 years from now. So that being said, a better working relationship by board and staff. This needs to be ongoing effort. Talking about having the boards meeting on a quarterly basis. Students ready for the workforce, from P-Tech to job. Did I lose this? Okay, thank you. Better coordination of our data. We each have data banks with information on business, but this data needs to be shared better. And this is going back to trying to find out what the next wave of jobs is. Contacting the industry leaders in those 4 different sectors that we identified, which is really our future in Tampa Bay. What are the future jobs? Coordinate the 3 boards as a single voice with these industry leaders. And our president offered, as one of the last comments, is SPC could be the clearinghouse of all that information. We feel like we have the abilities, we certainly have the facilities, and with Andrea and her team, maybe we can be the clearinghouse to gather that information and make sure it stays connected to our 3 boards. So I think that's about it. Thank you.
All right, what I'd like to do now is ask for the CEO Direct class. You've been working in parallel. You came up with some bold actions as well. Would you have a representative who can come and share some of the great business-related bold actions we can take? Yes, and please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm John Breen with AT&T. If you have a Verizon phone, you can leave the room right now. No. So I'm on the CEO Direct. You're excused. Yeah, no, sorry. No. So I'm part of this class of 2011. It's been a great experience, by the way. So I've had a chance. At AT&T, I run a large division of engineers around the globe. So I tend to not think regionally, I think globally. And I think one of the great experiences of this is sharing the fact that when you go to China and you talk about Tampa Bay, they don't know where that is. But this forum and the plan allows you to sit in circles of influence around the globe and say, hey, did you know that this region is actually fostering good jobs, good skill sets in these 4 key areas. So that was a little bit, just a little headliner there. Did you have any of our inputs at all, or?
The best calls
Okay, yeah, so all right, best calls to action. I was trying to see if anybody, if I don't know if they can tell which ones were from our group here. So let's see. Okay. Well, let me share a couple things I remember from ours. Let's see. Yeah, include this plan. Well, if you're a company developing your marketing plan or your business plan, you have this plan to incorporate into that. In fact, several of us who have every year to revise a strategic plan or business or marketing plan, you just take this and insert it in section 3. Boom, you're done. You know, it helps you fill that. It also helps you if you're talking about a more national plan, that if you got the Tampa Bay plan that's really crisp and clear, and some other part of the market isn't, it helps drive more dollars focused at areas that are organized. So I think there's a benefit there. Let's see. Oh, this was the thing. Jobs of the future, right? We think of Tampa area as great tourist place, right? Well, isn't it the best place to work, right? I think of our company, and I'm sure other companies are like this. We have 300,000 employees. 100,000 of those jobs can be worked from home. Would you rather sit in Detroit looking at the buildings downtown and commute to work, or would you rather sit on a beach? And would you find it economically actually cheaper to live here in Florida and do that work at home job here than you would have to pay for your house in California? We talked about one of the employers, Valpak, has a big web development. It's a programming job. Programmers work from midnight to 6 a.m. and they work from home best. In fact, that skill set, though, where are they finding it? In California. And they have to pay a premium because that person has to live in a house that here, you know, you could afford a mansion for what you pay for a 3-bedroom apartment there, right? So you think about it, that the jobs of the future are not, I drive to work and I go to the building. Job of the future may be this computer on your hip pocket and you're working virtually. And why not live here? So there may be an economic benefit to living and working here that we're not advertising to the business community that we ought to keep in mind. Yeah, question? Yeah, or work at home. IBM, I know you guys know IBM, 40%. Majority of them. Most, for example, like all of our executives are equipped with not only the ability to have a laptop that you can connect from your local, many of you may have this capability, in a virtual private network, but we also are equipping them with high-definition video conferencing equipment in their homes as well. So we can do conferences around the globe without even having to travel anymore. So to answer your question, we're actually pushing this because the real estate cost of your business is overhead. Let's face it. So that's why I think as a region, we may think in terms of real estate and getting to and from work, but the future jobs may be more virtualized, and creating an infrastructure that makes that live, work, and play story is maybe a great story from our area that's not being considered in these jobs of the future. So that's the jobs of the future statement. We just want to talk. We talk to millennials, talk to your teenagers. They work in job moments, not job hours, okay? They multitask better than we ever did. My daughter never sat at a desk. She sat on her bed with her laptop doing her work. And we used to say, what are you doing? Well, I'm working. I'm doing school. Your kids are being offered virtualized classrooms. So why wouldn't work be virtualized in the future? So I think we have a key advantage here. We just think we ought to be incorporating that, updating the plan with that. We think the influence of that we personally can do, we all participate in our job circles, right? Well, how many of you sit at PTA meetings and they like a topic, right? Well, how about pitch this topic? We thought that if you play on a golf team, and the golf team, you know, who are these? These are business leaders. Sit around and have a beer afterward. Did you know there's even a Tampa Bay Partnership, let alone a plan, right? These circles of influence, both personal, private, and organizational, we thought was benefit for not only the CEO direct staff, but also for our for anybody who's associated with it. I think another thing I want to put in here is creative executive playgrounds. Where do board meetings happen? Don Cesar, Vinoy, Terrence, where do they happen at, right? Where? No, board meetings. They're always at luxury resorts, right? Naples, right? Oh, all right. All right. Well, we're in paradise, right? What I'm saying is if you, all right, I hear you. Know my audience, yeah. All right, so I speak on behalf of the business community, okay? Which is where jobs come from, right? Board meetings are held in nice luxury places. Our company annual giveaway trips for the top performers in the company is in Florida, for example. So these venues, these people who come in with shorts and t-shirts on who look like they're tourists, they're not tourists. They're the executive who just made $1 million decision to move something not into Tampa Bay but somewhere else. So we decided that we're right next to the Gideon's Bible in every hotel room. We're going to put the Tampa Bay Partnership plan underneath it and give them a little night reading to do. Or if you had a board meeting come to the Vinoy, why not offer a speaker from this association to say, hey, you got an hour at lunch here? We'll pass out a few tokens. Welcome to Tampa Bay, and here's a little pitch about our partnership. So I'm just saying that we should leverage these things, the dynamics that are really our backyard things, simple concepts that we can really put us on the map. And that's a little bit from the CEO directing. Okay, thanks.
What a precedent-setting day today has been, huh? With great collaborative discussion. You will receive tomorrow a full record of all of your work, and most of you are familiar with what a real-time record looks like. I'd like to turn our attention to the artistic visualization over here and just ask Jonathan to comment briefly. This will be also in your real-time record, so you can look at it in detail over the weekend. But Jonathan?
Okay. Let's see, starting over on the left, in green you'll find the highlights of the speakers and some of the buzzwords and keywords that were spoken. And then along with that, you'll have a visual of the 3 pools of stakeholders in the room today, just working together, kind of leveraging that momentum to grow things in Tampa Bay. So that started off our whole concept today. And with that, we moved to the center illustration where basically we just focused on the word jobs and tried to show a diversity of job opportunities and the career ladders and just kind of focusing on that concept. And around that, you'll find sort of at the bottom, the Pinellas County School Board, Petersburg College Board of Trustees, the Pinellas County Board of County Commissioners. That concept here was someone mentioned the farm system, and Pinellas County School Board sort of kicking off that farm system. So maybe it's a little gory, heads being grown, but I just thought, okay, that's quick. People get it. It's not a gory thing; it's a good thing. But just kind of guiding them and sort of choosing the path, or St. Pete College in that role of helping to guide paths and finding jobs and job placement in the Tampa Bay region and growing the region. So.
Right. I'd like to invite Stuart Rogel to come and help us close a very productive morning. Thank you again for the great work. It's been an honor to serve you today. Stuart?
Well, thank you, Andrea, and thank you to the team here. As always, such a great job. Thank you so very much. And to everybody, thank you all for your time and your talents and your treasures and your wealth. And it's pouring down rain. So we may have more time and talent and treasure together here before we get out of this building. But no, this has been incredibly valuable and incredibly important. But let's just spend a minute and talk about next steps, because we spent a lot of time talking about actionable items. And I hope that you'll take those items back, and I'm going to set the stage. I'm going to ask for something in a moment, but I hope you'll take those actionable items back to your boards and pick 1 or 2 or more, 1 or 2 that you can commit to and work on, and work with us and bring us into the discussion. And I'm going to deliver, and I'll share with with all of you, I'll deliver to you a request that we have to kick that off. And that is a resolution of support for the regional business plan. It should be relatively easy. You might want to look at the language and make it work for each one of your organizations. But it is that first step actionable item to say, hey, we're on board and we're part of this. And we'll ask that of each of your boards. We've been asking that of other boards around the region and getting great feedback. So that's one actionable step. And you can take it back and work on it, as appropriate in your next meeting or whenever you think is appropriate. But I would encourage you to do that, and I would encourage you to get involved with the regional business plan, to fill out that form or give me a call or give me your business card or let our team know, and stay involved, because this next step is going to be critically important, how we implement this, how we make this happen, and it's going to take a lot of effort, and I hope you'll stay and guide us and lead us in that effort. So with that, Bob, did you want to add anything? Did you have any other thoughts, or Bill or Julie? Anything to feed any additional, or dismiss us and go buy lunch? By the way, we're gonna try to switch out those Gideon's Bibles with the Tampa Bay Partnership business plan. We'll work on that. I don't think so, but I love those ideas. How do we market that, Bob?
Let me go one step further and suggest that the boards tell Julie, Bill, and I if there's anything you want us to do in follow-up at this point to keep this alive and report back to you as separate boards, and then ultimately to the group.
I think to have a meeting in 4 to 6 months and report back on what we've done.
Bob, I think it's probably going to be easier for the three of you together than to gather all the boards together. So it would be up to the three of you to set a time when, quite frequent, periodically at least, where you can sit down and talk over these issues.
But there are action items that we, the board members, need to make sure happen. And you and I will work together to make sure that the Board of County Commissioners does, and hopefully the other boards as well. But I think it's important at some point that we all get back together too.
Okay.
The three of you, and I want to applaud you and thank you for your initiative and your leadership in getting us here. And now it's all of us working together. You all can steer the bus, and we'll be there giving direction. How's that? How's that for you?
No, I just agree with Karen and Susan that we have another follow-up meeting, 4 to 6 months, follow up on the things that we said we would try to do, and have the three of you with board input plan the agenda. This was excellent, and I think we need to keep it going.
And in the meantime, have our communication groups get together, find the business intelligence information, and put together a marketing communication plan. If St. Pete College said they're willing to take all that information, we need to boil it out into a message.
I agree with Linda in having the meeting in 4 to 6 months. I think we maybe need to push it back or make it even earlier, maybe like October, where the legislature starting. Whatever our action items may be, we may need to be going to Tallahassee together to figure out some things that we need to do there. So we probably need to do this closer to October because the legislature starts in January this year. Yeah, exactly. So.
Let's get to work. Donuts. Donuts. Anything else? Well, thank you. I think that gives us enough to get going on, and we will do that and be in touch with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.